Okay, this video is going to show you how you can integrate CrewsControl time collection with QuickBooks Desktop for payroll purposes. So there's a couple of things you have to make certain of before you even try to import data uh, into QuickBooks. And a couple of those things I'm going to discuss here. First of all, I'm looking at QuickBooks at my customer and job list, and I can see this Bob Held, and he's got this project of 2024-0159. Notice that if we go over to CrewsControl and I look for Held, I actually have it in here right now. I can see that project. So it's 2024-0159, and that matches what we have here, 2024-0159. And you can notice that Bob Held is listed with last name, first name. And that's the same thing that we see here if we look at our client. So we want to make sure that the client and the project number match exactly between CrewsControl and QuickBooks. Without that, we won't be able to import time into QuickBooks for project-related activities. So that's one of the very first things we need to make sure every time we set up something in QuickBooks that it matches exactly with what's in CrewsControl. So we know that we have this, we have that correct. I'm going to go over to time approval, and I'm going to look at last week, which I've already got those dates in here. I've changed my name in the system to Duncan Fisher. I'll show you that in resource users. I have Duncan Fisher in here. That's who I currently am within this test application. And that matches exactly with the employee. So we were just looking at the customer and job list. If I go over to employees and to Employee Center, I'll see Duncan Fisher here as well. So the names match, and that's important when we start importing time for employees. So from here, I can feel confident that the data that's in CrewsControl matches with what's in QuickBooks. So if I go back to time approval, now although it's showing Fisher, Duncan, I know that the name is correct. This just happens to be the format of display on the time approval list. But when we export that, it's going to be first name, last name. And what I've done is I've put 8 hours against that project, and I can show you that. So you can see for the 9:30 through 10:03, I've just got paid time off for 8 hours each. And then on Friday, I put it against that project, that task as a Rodman, 8 hours. And you can see that I've also got some notes that should be in QuickBooks. So any notes that I enter here that the employee enters, they will be available in QuickBooks. So we can feel confident that that's correct. So now we can go ahead and start our process, and all we need to do is go to Export QuickBooks Desktop. I'm going to choose an Excel file, and I'm going to export it. So from here, if I take and open this up, I'm going to enable this for editing, and I'm going to make these columns wider. And let's take a look at what the file that it exported. This is something that QuickBooks expects. You can just ignore that first column. Of course, the date, that's the date format it's expecting. Now, because we have project worked as well as paid time off here, we've got, in some cases, we've got a job number, but of course, for vacation time, we don't have any hours to charge to a job. So the first thing we want to do, if we know that it's not job related, is by default when it exports it from CrewsControl, it's going to put a 1 here. One of the first things we want to do is just put a 0 here because this is non-billable, and the the file is expecting anything that doesn't have a job number, of course it's not billable. So that's the first thing we need to do. The second thing we need to do is we need to determine what is our payroll item. That's what this P item column is looking for. So if I go over to this form and I'll go to, if I go to Payroll Center, I can look under payroll items and I can see what I can charge against. So my project work I'm going to put against regular pay. I'm going to just copy that onto my clipboard. I'm going to go back over to Excel. Now once you know what the payroll item is, you won't have to go back and forth like this. I'm just needing to do this because I'm not familiar with this QuickBooks test account. And then what do I need to put for paid time off? Well, that is, I'm going to charge that to vacation hourly. I'm going to copy that to my clipboard and I'm going to put that in here and I'll copy that down. Okay. So now what we've got is a valid timesheet that QuickBooks will accept. The item is surveying. Now, if that wasn't a valid service item, in this particular application it is, so I'm using surveying. I've put in my payroll items based on the fact that this is vacation time and it needs to get charged to vacation hourly, and project time has my project number and it has regular pay, and that is marked as billable. Here's our notes that we're expecting to be taken into QuickBooks as well. So now that we've got a valid file, I'm going to choose File, Save As, and I need to save this into a text delimited file. And if I scroll down, I'm sorry, a text file, but it's tab delimited. Tab delimited is the file format that QuickBooks Desktop is expecting. So I'm going to choose text tab delimited, and then I'm going to save that, and I'm just going to save it to my, sorry, I didn't choose the right, try that again, File, Save As, tab delimited, and I want to save that on my desktop so I can get to it quickly. I'll choose save there. Okay, then I'm going to close it, and then I'm going to open up this file. Now this is the tab delimited file that I just created. Let me close that other one. This is the format that QuickBooks Desktop is expecting. But we've got one more change we need to make. We need to make sure that this is saved with an IIF extension. This currently has a .txt, and I need to change it to .iif. So I'm just going to do a File, Save As, and then on the end of this I'm going to put .iif like that. It doesn't matter if it's uppercase or lowercase. I did uppercase there, but it doesn't matter. But in order to put the file name, I had to change Save As type and then choose All Files. So now if I choose Save, now I've got this in an IIF format, and now we're ready to import to QuickBooks. Okay, so I'm going to close all my windows out because I know that QuickBooks doesn't want any windows open when I import a file. So I'm going to choose File, Utilities, Import, IIF Files. I'm going to choose IIF, and then there's my file that I just put on my desktop. I'll select it. And because I've been testing this, but it's okay, I'm going to go and choose Proceed. And you can see now that I had 5 successful imports. So now what I can do is go over to Employees, enter time, use weekly timesheet. I'll choose Duncan, that was my employee. And I'll go back to, that was this week. So you can see that my job got imported correctly. The service item, it was a valid service item, so surveying is correct. My notes got copied over. And in the background, your application your QuickBooks may show the payroll item, and you would see that regular time and the vacation hours, vacation hourly. But this particular QuickBooks test system doesn't show that, but yours very well may show the payroll item. And then I can see that my hours got imported. So I only did one employee here, but if we had multiple employees in that export from CrewsControl, they would all get imported. The key, again, is to make sure that things match, that we put the right payroll item in into our Excel and copied pasted it for any relevant rows. I've made sure that my customer name matches exactly, my job number matches exactly, and my employee name matches exactly. CrewsControl and QuickBooks Desktop has to match exactly, or you're going to have to manually adjust this file every time you try to do time collection import into QuickBooks, and that's going to be painful. It's better to take some time up front, make sure your customers, your project numbers match, and that the employee name matches, and that you're using a valid payroll item and service item when you're importing. Taking a few minutes to make sure that's correct is going to speed up your payroll processing in terms of getting the hours imported from CrewsControl. I hope that's been helpful.